What's up, YouTube? You know what time it is. The places where your gamers' voices are heard, and your boy Jay is dropping that word. So yeah, I'm back up in it, live in effect. It's been a quick little minute, but I am back, man. Watching a lot of these shenanigans that's taking place in the gaming community right now, man. And I just, like usual, wanted to speak my piece. Yeah, man, I just want to say to all those who, still rocking out with my content, man, really appreciate it. Like I said, man, I'm just on a every now and then, man, when the bullshit gets too high, I got to come in and start with the shovel and start scooping it out, man, and really start clearing the way because, somebody has to do it, So, yeah, man, I just had some topics, man, to speak on. Of course, we know E3, this is concerning E3 and Xbox, and this the whole fray of what's really going down, man. I got some opinions on some things and some things I've been seeing, and it's like the hater raid from the Sony fanboys, man, are at a fever pitch. They're trying to console discontent and distraction and delusion everywhere they go. They're still on these same, I want to dispel some of these stupid talking points, man, that I really have a problem with when it comes to these Xbox guys, where they just don't know how to properly dispel these stupid talking points, man, and instead they end up perpetuating them, and instead of just slap them down as they should, man. And I wanted to break some of that down, some of my frustration with that, man, and then get into, E3 and what we can expect, and, what just gamers in general should be excited for, man. And just break down some of the things that's going on in today's gaming world. So, man, I just wanted to first start this out with, these fanboys, man. I mean, it has to be said. I mean, hey, congratulations, man. Congratulations with taking so many L's, the first of this generation, but still out there with it, trying to find anything they can to hate on and talk crap about. But recently it's just been, you guys have been seeing what's happening with games like Biomutant and, games like the new Resident Evil, where it's just one sad L for Sony, one after another, with these games coming out, and it's running subpar on Sony's version of the game, and of course this is running down pretty good in regards to resolution and frame rate on the Series X, as to be expected. But man, what really gets me is when these journalists come out, and I don't know if you guys remember about the last generation. I mean, it was just an all-out assault on Xbox, man. From journalists, from fanboys, to YouTube personalities, man. It was just like everybody was an all-out assault on Xbox, and it was just only those rare guys, folks like me, that was out there and just, letting know that, hey, actually there's some positive things, bruh, about what Microsoft is doing. You might want to dig into that, instead of just make opinions without you knowing what you're talking about. But man, other than that, man, you're seeing a lot of this, a lot of this stuff from, it's funny, man. What I noticed is a lot of people make comments, and when I say people, I'm mostly talking about Sony fanboys, and also just even some Xbox guys, where they will make comments that's based off the last generation. I'm gonna drop a name on this guy. This guy Dustin, that used to be with IGN. He has since has a YouTube channel that's called Dustin, and he recently did a video talking about Sony sales and can Xbox catch up. And in his video he's talking about how profound Sony sales are. It's record breaking and all this. And he was thinking before Xbox was going to be able to catch up to the sales, but now he's like, well, he doesn't know. And I'm thinking the whole time, does this guy know that every console that Microsoft is producing or manufacturing is being sold? And isn't it interesting that his narrative in this video is about unit sold, that unit sales, when unit sales, it's not even about demand at this point, it's about supply. So why would, at this point, I can understand after these consoles are readily available on store shelves and the PlayStation 5, I mean, is like flying off the shelves, and the Xbox is just sitting there collecting dust. I can understand if that's the case. Sure, I can understand a video being made on that. That it looks like there's a much higher demand for the PlayStation than there is the Xbox. Xbox is readily available on store shelves. However, the PlayStation 5 is not. I can understand that, but that's not the case, right? Both of these consoles ain't seeing no store shelves. Probably for the rest of this year, they're not seeing any store shelves. So it's really interesting to see that, you know, this happening, right? Where you have a person who does a video talking about sales as if that's the end all be all. When in fact, we know for a fact that's not the end all be all. And we know that because Microsoft has created a model where they win-win regardless if you buy a console or not, right? You think about it. Microsoft has created a model, a business model, where whether if you buy a PC, whether if you even have a mobile phone, in a minute, it's going to be even in your TVs. You could still subscribe to Game Pass and be playing Xbox games and still be in Xbox ecosystem no matter what. And you got to think, all those things are interchangeable, meaning that you could maybe start on a mobile phone and then liking the game so much you end up getting an Xbox, right? So all these things play off of each other. And that is a business model that's way more profound and way more nuanced than anything Sony can ever perceive of doing. Now, maybe this might be something I'm sure in the future Sony is going to be moving closer to. But if anything, it's Sony trying to catch up to what Microsoft business model is, not the other way around, right? But here with this guy, Dustin, he's going to do a video as if, oh, that's the end all be all. It's about sales. I mean, and this is supposed to be one of the more bipartisan guys, the guys that's fair and equal, right? And, you know, in my opinion, man, these videos are all about just trying to get clicks, man, like usual. The same old stuff. I mean, you don't think this guy doesn't know how ridiculous that is to be talking about sales at this point in the game? And also to be talking about Sony, Microsoft catching up to Sony. I mean, really, bro, Microsoft has the business model that Sony wish they had right now that provided value to their customers. At the same time, was a growing ecosystem that actually is that is built for the future. If you think about what Microsoft is doing, their ecosystem that they are creating now and that they're establishing is the future of gaming. There's nothing that what Sony's doing right now is the future of gaming. They're still doubling down on the old, you know, prehistoric way of the business model of what platforms like that used to do. They're still about, well, we're gonna put our console out there, try to sell as many of the consoles as we can, and then have a handful of great exclusives that we hope people will buy our console for. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you don't see that's an old, outdated model, business model, you gonna have a rude awakening this next generation. And for anybody to act like that business model is the end all be all, literally a out of date business model that is a thing of the becoming more and more a thing of the past as each week and month passes by, then you're gonna find out the hard way. So it's guys like this that really nerves me, because it's like, you know, they make these stupid videos, man, making these dumbass claims, and it's just like, if you can't see the future, man, it's the same thing about between Blockbuster and Netflix. If you cannot see the future of what things were happening, then you know you're the one that is going to really just find out, man, you're going to be behind the curve, because you're just not able to see what is right in front of your eyes. The industry is changing, you know, whether we like it or not. Just to let you guys know, I like physical content. I don't never want physical content to go away. I'm an old school gamer, but guess what? That's the reality of it. That's technology. You know, you can't have the advancement of technology and think whatever the old technology is just going to be there forever. That's just not how it works, man. And as much as I like, you know, physical content, I know at some point, you know, you know, 10 years, 20 years, wherever it is down the road, yeah, it's going to be all digital content at some point. But that's not nothing I'm afraid of. That's just something that just goes with technology, you know, that's just how it is. So, but one thing I do like is Microsoft making the commitment to say all of your older games, we are making sure that your new console you get is able to give you the best version of those older games. So if you decide to go back and play in those games, they're going to be better than they've ever been before. That is value you're not getting with Sony. When you get to pick up the PS5, you're not getting that value. I mean, heck, I told guys this plenty of times, you could even play PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 games on your Series X. That's not talked about enough. Imagine if that was the case on PlayStation 5. That's all you would hear. The media, all that you would hear is, oh my God, you can now play Xbox games on PlayStation. Oh my God. I mean, that's all you would hear from the fanboys. That's all you would hear from the gaming, IGN, GameSpot. It would be this big old thing, a big old narrative that, you know, yeah, you could play these games on PlayStation, Xbox games. Now, have you heard that for Xbox? Crickets. Crickets. And when people tell me I'm crazy when I talk about a double standard, I mean, the double standard is real and it's obvious and it's in your face. It's like, the same things for PlayStation ain't the same thing for Xbox. You don't hear, this is crickets. It's mentioned here and there by particular individuals, but it is not no all-out media assault that, oh, look at this. You don't see IGN talking about it over and over again, GameSpot, any of these places talking about it over and over again. No, it's just like it's a undersaid thing. In the short, it's done by emulator, but that's besides the point. It still could be done and actually be done pretty damn well. If you're on a Series X, it is pretty compelling, especially considering the fact that you can't even play PlayStation 2 and 3 games on the PS5. So think about that. Like, Xbox one-ups the PS5 even on its own games, allowing you to go backwards compatible on games that even a PS5 can't even do on its own games that it should play but it can't play. But yet you hear nothing about it in the media. I mean, so that, I mean, this is just, I'm just using that as an example, just one example. It just tells you everything you need to know, right? And at the same time, you don't have these industry Xbox guys saying shit about it. They're too busy gloating over Ratchet and Clank and Horizon Zero Dawn to actually even just talk about the great things that Xbox has down the pipe. And I ain't saying for all of them, but I'm saying for some of them. And it's okay to like Horizon Dawn, by the way, and Ratchet and Clank. I mean, I think both of those games, whenever I ever do pick up the PS5, I may pick those games up at a discount, no problem. But yeah, man, like if I'm an Xbox guy, I know there's a crap ton of Xbox console exclusives that are coming down the pipe that I'm excited about. You know what I mean? And that's what I will be talking about, especially if I'm an Xbox guy. You know, and the thing is with these dudes, and just how the gaming market is, the media is in general, everything is centered towards any little small thing that Sony does to blow it up like it's this huge hype thing. But anything that Xbox does is to marginalize it, like, oh, okay, that's not a big deal. Like, I don't know if y'all noticed that, but it's just like, or if it's a big thing, they talk about it for maybe a couple of days, then crickets. There ain't no news about it. The only one who may be talking about it is a few selection of Xbox YouTubers, right? That are guys that are, you know, Xbox Central, or that's their primary console. They might talk about it, but you won't see GameSpot, IGN, not like it is with Sony. If Sony has any good news, trust me, they're gonna be on it. You know, that's all you're gonna hear. And the sad thing is, you know, a lot of these Xbox guys, let's keep it real, they are just gamers in general, which is a great thing. What that means is just like me, man, I'm a gamer in general. Guess what that means? I also have a PlayStation. Guess what that means? I also play PlayStation exclusives, right? I don't hate on PlayStation in the sense of, if it has a great game, I'm not gonna play it. You better get out of here. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play me a God of War. I have Horizon Dawn. I have Spider-Man, right? I play these games, wow, because I'm a damn gamer. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not an Xbox fanboy. I'm a gamer. So I play these games, and I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say, oh, those games suck. Sony just overall sucks. No, actually, Sony doesn't overall suck. All right, I can celebrate the great things Sony's are doing and the great games they do have without being a corporate slave to Sony. Same thing to Xbox. I can celebrate the good things Xbox is doing and the great games they do have without being a slave to Microsoft, right? You know, so you could do those things without just completely, you know, my thing is when you start lying, you know, putting out misinformation, you know, talking about, you know, stuff, you know, putting spins on it that is just completely a lie or fabricated or misinformation or just being malicious, that's when it's a problem. You know what I mean? That's when you in that neighborhood of just, you know, you toxic, man. And no one's learning from that to you know, make a better informed choice about what console they should be interested in getting or what platform should be their primary platform. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the individual to decide that anyway, right? Any of us on YouTube or anywhere else is just giving you advice from their personal experience, right? But, you know, my thing is this: when you have so much bias in the gaming industry, it just gets overwhelming, man. I mean, I'm at the point, man, where, you know, we have Xbox that more than likely will be having the biggest E3 show of this year. Not more than likely, will be having the biggest E3 because really, honestly, let's keep it real. Microsoft, out of the big three, Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft is the only one having a real true presence at E3, right? Sony has bowed out a long time ago. And, you notice Sony bowed out right around the time when the Xbox One X came out. They didn't want to have nothing to do with Xbox side to side, given the comparison, because they knew their PS4 was completely subpar to the Xbox One, and they just didn't want to look bad on stage. A lot of these people talking about, well, E3 since dried up and blah blah blah. And that's the reason why Sony's didn't want to spend all that money. No, it's two things. Sony didn't see it made sense for them because they had already shown all of their games that were so many years in advance. They didn't have anything to show. Do you guys remember the last show that Sony did at E3? They literally, for the last two shows, showed the exact same games that they've been showing for years. Literally, it was that bad. I mean, I'm not even kidding. That's not hyperbole, by the way. Look up their shows. Look up their shows for each year. You'll find out that their last 2 years was basically, apart from a couple of new maybe games that they had that were smaller games, all of their big games were basically all the games, the same games they've been talking about the whole time. So obviously, from Sony's point of view, it didn't make a lot of sense for them to do a show where they really honestly didn't have anything to show at that time. And that's what it had to do with. It didn't have nothing to do with all the other BS that a lot of these Sony fanboys was talking about, trying to damage control and all that. No, it was just that it was, in my opinion, two things. They didn't have nothing new to show because they had already shown up all their stuff. And the second thing is they didn't want to be upstaged by Microsoft, especially showing their new hardware, because they knew the PS4 Pro was subpar. So why would they want to show themselves? One thing about small Sony, they are smart in the sense that if they think they're going to be upstage or they think they're going to look bad, they are not going to show up. They would rather not show up and just be quiet than show up and then get showed up for just how lackluster they really are. They ain't gonna do that. They smart about that. They're really sneaky and smart about that. And that's one thing I'll give to them. I mean, whether you love that or hate it, they're savvy in the way of staying out of the fray. And then whatever, leaving plausible deniability for their Sony fanboy defenders to come in and to protect them, along with a lot of the gaming media will come in and protect them. So they're smart. They got the gaming media on their side. They got all these legions of Sony fanboy slaves on their side that will cover for them, defend them at any moment. Even though Sony treats them like crap, it doesn't matter. You know, they'll be there to launch themselves off the cliff for Sony at any beck and call. They got that. You got to give Sony that. They're pretty clever. They're pretty smart in having that, and that has basically protected their butt. Even through the first of this generation, because we can see what's happening. Sony is doing great numbers. Why? Because Sony's still the mainstream darling, right? If you think about it, if you look at media, just even look at the news, they say PlayStation before they say Xbox, right? I look at a lot of even other guys that don't have nothing to do with the gaming, right? It's still in their minds that Sony PlayStation, right? It's still the PlayStation, right? Because the last generation has left such a mark on the reputation of Xbox and also the reputation of Sony that it's made Sony just the mainstream, right? So that is something still Microsoft is going to have to work hard to dispel. The notion that Sony's better just because it's Sony. Like, it's like at this point, Sony doesn't have to do anything. I mean, you even get guys from IGN, literally, I shit you not, this dude said when this was earlier on in this generation, this was months ago, but literally this Sony guy from IGN said, well, PlayStation doesn't have to do anything because it's Xbox that really has something to prove. I mean, think about that. Think about that. The thought that, yeah, you know, Sony doesn't have to, they don't have to show anything or prove anything to their gamers that are considering upgrading to a PS5 or never had a PS5 before and is looking to maybe get one. They don't have nothing to prove to none of those people. It's just that they should already know Sony is great and better just because it's Sony. I mean, think about the brainwash there. I mean, where it's just pre-assumed before they even have any major big titles come out, before you even see, hey, this console is excellent, it's great, I love it. Before any of that happens, you should just know by default Sony is better. I mean, the arrogance in that statement is fucking absurd and ridiculous. But this is literally the brainwash and the propaganda that's out there that gets you to think something is worth your money. It's worth you to spend $70 on each one of their exclusive games. It's worth it for you to rebuy all of your accessories, even though you have PS4 accessories. No, that's okay. You're going to have to rebuy again all of your accessories. It's worth it for you to buy a less powerful console at the same price as a more powerful console. All of those things are worth it because it's Sony. I mean, it's like this. If you think this is just me, it's just like, maybe it's just me, but I think that's absurd, man. And it's just a slap in the face to anybody that, you know, that is looking to genuinely get information and advice on what ecosystem they should be entering into this next generation. You know what I mean? And it just it boggles my mind how, you know, it's only guys like me talking about this type of stuff. You know what I mean? We have so many of these industry Xbox guys. I mean, all they want to do is do a false equivalency on everything, just ignore the double standards, and then act like everything's peachy green. And both consoles are great. And it's like, no, you could actually point out empirical fact and data and still not be biased about it. You could just say, hey, here are the things where Xbox is great, here are the things where PlayStation is great. Hey, you guys make up your mind where you sit, right? That would be fair, right? But these guys go the extra mile and it's like, no, we're gonna do a false equivalency. Both consoles are great. You know, I love games on PlayStation. That's great, but that's not the point. The point is, hey, is the PlayStation ecosystem providing value to its customers? Is it respecting its customers? No one's expecting the corporation to love you, but are they respecting the investment you are making into their ecosystem and will continue to make year after year? Are they respecting that by providing you great value? Are they respecting that by providing you great access to a library of games? You know, you got to really think about that. Like, what is the value when I'm spending $70 on each game and literally 2 PlayStation exclusives literally equals a whole year of Game Pass with over hundreds of games on it? Which one you as a gamer finds to be more valuable? You know what I'm saying? $120 spent on 2 games that you're gonna one and done play. You're gonna play for whatever set of hours, then be done with it. Because most of Sony's exclusives are single action player adventure type games. Okay, so you play it, you're done, and let's just say both of those games, you're done within 2 months with both of those games, a month for each game. Okay, so what are you playing for the rest of the months? Think about it. Have you ever thought about it? Like when they keep talking about exclusives. Okay, dog, the exclusives are far in between. What the freak are you talking about? And even then, they're one and done games. They're not like Microsoft's exclusives where there's still people playing Halo 1. Okay, what are we talking about? Microsoft exclusives gets played over and over, year after year after year. Sony's exclusives is not like that. They're one and done games. So have you ever thought when these guys that talk so much about exclusives, when they're done with them, what are they playing? They're playing multiplats. Like, what are you talking about? They're playing Red Dead Redemption. They're playing Grand Theft Auto. They're playing Call of Duty. They're playing multiplats. So like, and even those games are better on the Series X. So if you really think about the value you're getting with buying a PS5, it pales in comparison to the Series X. It's not even close. But do you have these guys really talking about that? Really digging into the facts of that? Really talking about that in detail? Of course not. Of course not. Instead, you get from these Xbox guys false equivalency, acting like both consoles are basically the same. Even selling themselves out, talking about, Xbox, PlayStation just you had a better lineup at launch. Okay, wow. Launch, they had a DLC from Spider-Man that actually was a Spider-Man DLC. Wasn't even a full-fledged game, but they just made it into a full-fledged game, saying it was when it wasn't. And then they had an old remake of an old game, Dark Souls or Demon Souls, whatever. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Incredible lineup. And don't even get me started on Godfall. I mean, God Awful. That's what it should be called. I mean, so what are we talking about, bruh? And Sackboy. I mean, so their lineup wasn't great at all. Okay, now it wasn't a worse lineup. I mean, I think it's the worst in PlayStation history because prior to that, even as bad as the last generation PlayStation launch was, it wasn't as bad as this launch. But now some people argue Miles Morales made up everything. That was a great game. But the thing is, it was a PS4 game that was DLC. Come on, let's just keep it real. And so stop. And me personally, I didn't even like Spider-Man. I played Spider-Man. It wasn't what it was all hyped up and cracked up to be. Okay, it wasn't graphically pleasing. Okay, stop. Now the PS5 is a great improvement on the Miles Morales. Yes, that's great. It's a better game, but let's just keep it real. It's still DLC. Stop. Okay, but even that being said, look, is that a better lineup than what Xbox had to offer, which was basically Gears Tactics? And a lot of people talking about that wasn't a new game. Well, it was new on Xbox consoles. It was on PC, so it was on Xbox consoles. And then we had the DLC for Gears of War that came out that was beautiful, and Tetris and what is the other game? I forget the other game. The other game where there's 2 worlds in one. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. That was a third-party game, or I think it was a second-party game. No, it was a third-party game, and it's exclusive to Xbox. That horror type set game. That was a third-person type of horror game. I don't know why I was blanking on the name of it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So, was that the greatest lineup by comparison? No. What I would say was both of them were shit lineups. And that could easily be proven by the fact that out of any of those games, name me any of those games, both on PlayStation and Xbox, that were full-fledged next-generation games, ready to be launched for the new consoles. 0. That, to me, both lineups are bad. If you got a next-generation console, but yet you don't have what's more important is the actual next-generation game to be ready for that next-generation console, that's an automatic fail in my book. So, in my opinion, both consoles did not have the games that that they really should have in the launch of the generation. Okay, so in my opinion, both of them were not good, just by that metric. Okay, and if you want to break it down to any other metric, you know, at the end of the day, they both had good, for what they were, games to offer. And I think what's the bigger, more important thing is which platform, beyond that, what the bigger indicator to look at is which platform had an access of games that value your investment. In my opinion, that was Microsoft, hands down, just with Game Pass by itself, right? Game Pass is that new wild card that Microsoft has that it just can't be matched when it comes to value. And in my opinion, that itself made up for any Xbox's lack of exclusives in launch. Just by the simple fact that a new person who never had an Xbox before can get an Xbox, get a year of Game Pass, and literally have access to hundreds of games that they may or may not ever even played before, and be able to play those games whenever they want to. I mean, if you can't see how much of an incredible value that is, and not only that, have a library of backwards compatible games that will allow you to be able to play those games better than they ever been played before, with FPS boosts. I mean, and things like that, and then, you know, auto HDR. I mean, Microsoft has gone all out on value. I mean, you cannot deny that. And in my opinion, that wins out easily. You know what I mean? In my opinion. So, I mean, when you look at all these factors, man, it's pretty obvious, you know, who's chasing who. You know, it's pretty obvious. It's Sony that's the ones on the ends of trying to, you know, look at what Microsoft is doing and seeing where they can implement that into their business model. It's pretty obvious. And anyone saying anything different, I mean, you're just either on that fanboy Kool-Aid or you just full of shit. I mean, it's simple as that, man. So, yeah, man, that's my video on that, man. I wanted to break some of those things down. You know, the last thing was E3, and I think Microsoft, it's pretty funny how Microsoft is having will have the biggest E3 ever, and Sony's not even showing up, and that's just okay, right? Imagine if it was Microsoft not really showing up for E3 at the time, in the same year that their new next generation console release. Think about that. They're not having an E3 at the time that their new console is releasing. Sorry about the baby crying in the background, you know, damn kids. But, you know, they're not having a console launch, a E3 or any type of big show. They're going to do little smaller things throughout the year. They just did this with this Horizon Dawn, which was a pretty relatively good show. Don't even get me started on Digital Foundry, just completely ignoring the pop-in that was happening, and just acting like, oh, okay, beautiful. Yeah, we're just going to ignore the fact that there is no 4K 60 in this game. But it's still beautiful. It's good. The guys are supposed to analyze this stuff and be so they're so nitpicky on every little thing when it comes to frame rate and it comes to resolution. But when it comes to a PlayStation exclusive, they just ignore all of that and act like it's just a beautiful game. Yeah, we're just gonna ignore the fact no 4K 60 mode at all, and the game is basically played at a low resolution. And you got a compromised resolution over frame rate either way. In a next generation game, I guess a cross generation game, because I guess it's still going to be on PS4. But either way, it being played on PS5, you would think it being exclusive, Sony would make sure that their exclusive would be able to play 4K 60 as a standard, especially on a console that they say their SSD is so uberly powerful, right? But yet, do you get any criticism from Digital Foundry on any of that? Of course not. Crickets. Don't say nothing about it. They just act like, oh, either way, this is a beautiful game. Imagine if that was Microsoft. Imagine what's going to happen when Halo comes out and it didn't have a 4K 60 mode at all on the Series X. Do you think they're going to have that same energy and be like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's a beautiful game? Oh, man, I can't wait. Guarantee you're not going to see that same energy. The whole narrative is not going to be it was a beautiful game. The whole narrative is going to be like, well, wow, on the Series X, there's no 4K 60 at all. There's no ray tracing. Like, you're going to get all this negative narrative that, oh, well, look at that. Well, it looks decent, but you know, it doesn't have, it's not 4K. It didn't run a consistent 4K 60. So, I mean, you know, I don't understand how it's really running up to par of what it was promised of what this game should be in next generation. Trust me, you'll be hearing all that from Digital Foundry when it's Xbox. But when it's Sony's exclusive, oh, well, it's okay. It's a beautiful game. But this is a double standard we see time and time again. So this is just yet another example of the industry and how it is, man. It's obvious that it's still full-blown, PlayStation good, Xbox bad. But I mean, this is what we're gonna have to still deal with, I think, for another, for the rest of this year, maybe to next year, or especially after E3. I think we might see, we already are seeing the tides change. There already are independent people from these different outlets just speaking out and saying the truth that they prefer Xbox, and here's why. Obviously, Game Pass is one of the biggest reasons. Quick Resume is one of those biggest reasons. And obviously you're getting a better version of the game on Xbox. So you do have independent people from different news outlets or media outlets that are discussing that. And, of course, they're being beat up and being attacked by these Sony fanboys because they want to hush that up. They don't want you saying the truth about it. They want you to be quiet. So this is a relentless assault by these Sony fanboys to try to have your opinion not be said, even though they can say their opinion all day, every day. But how dare you say your opinion that you prefer Xbox? Oh, that's heresy. These same people wouldn't say nothing if those same gaming journalists were saying they love PlayStation. Wouldn't bat an eye. The Xbox guys wouldn't say nothing. But when it's gaming journalists loving Xbox, all of a sudden that's a problem, right? I mean, so the double standard is real, example after example. And yeah, man, but the good thing is we can all be looking forward to the Z3. I think Microsoft is going to blow our minds at the Z3. And I think they're just going to do really well, and that's going to do more to change the narrative moving forward, man. So yeah, man, that's going to be my video on that, man. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. This video getting long as hell. It's basically a podcast at this point. But yeah, man, I would love to hear what you guys think. For anybody who's new, I appreciate if you like, share, and subscribe. Do the whole thing, man. Until the next time, man.